I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start with a moment of silence. Roll call, start with Commissioner Stevens. Here. Commissioner Schimke. Here. Commissioner Smith is present. Commissioner KAAZ.
Here.
And Commissioner Culbertson.
Here.
All commissioners are present. I'd like to open up public comment. Citizen desiring to speak on an item that is directly relevant to the County Commission business may do so at this time. A speaker shall refrain from making personal, rude, or slanderous remarks against any person. Individuals' personal issues and pending legal matters shall not be discussed in open meetings, including the citizen comment portion of the meeting. Anybody that would like to come forward and speak in public comment, but if it's related to anything that's going to have a public hearing, I'd like to ask that you wait till we do the public hearing on that item. But any other item, we open public comment at this time. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and move along to administrative business. Mr. Lawfrey.
There are two items under administrative business today. One of them being a letter to employees regarding United Way campaign, and I'll let Commissioner KAAZ comment on that. I think it's she had requested a letter that all the commissioners sign, and if you're all comfortable with that, just need to make a motion to authorize that.
That's pretty much it. It's just inviting all of the employees to participate in the United Way campaign. And then Stephanie will be giving them a little bit of information about the activities that will take place on Friday.
Okay. So you want to make the motion?
I move that the Board of County Commissioners sign a letter to the employees of the county asking them to participate in the United Way campaign for 2019 and 20 years.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the United Way letter? Voting?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
The other item under administrative business is authorizing the purchase of real property. The county councilor has a motion that we'd like the board to entertain.
What you got?
Somebody want to read it, or you want me to read it?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to authorize purchase of real property commonly known as 319 Walnut in the city of Leavenworth for the purchase price of $140,000, subject to any reasonable and necessary closing expenses, and that the chairman be authorized to execute all necessary documents to effect this purchase.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the purchase of the property? Seeing none, voting?
Aye.
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 Okay. Any other administrative business this time?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Consent agenda. Has the commissioners had a chance to look at all the items on the consent agenda? Is there any discussion or
No.
no concerns?
I just had one question for Mark. Last week we visited about updating some of the planning and zoning documents. Has there been any progress made on that?
I think the ones that we identified that had the errors in them have already been addressed, and then they're continuing to review any other forms that may have been outdated. The document you're referring to is a form, an application form, and they've since updated that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Aye.
We'll move on. We ready for buildings and grounds? Is the buildings and grounds folks out there?
Aaron's in the back.
Aaron in the back. We're ready for Mr. Yoakum.
You ready, Aaron?
Can you get in here? There you go.
Should have saved you a seat.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Moving on today with a RBA for transfer station paving 2019. We had 3 bids. Qualifying bid was a local low requesting not to exceed the $68,000 for contingency. The total on his estimate was $62,462.76. I'm putting in a contingency for excess removal of tipping floor area or sub-base that we might need, so that way I don't have to come back and ask for money in case there's an incident. It was a budgeted 2019 item from Capital Improvement Fund, basically asking to move forward with local bid from a low contract there. Sorry.
And you would approve any of the changes to get
Correct.
into
It's basically if we needed any sub-base on there, we have a predetermined estimate on sub-base if they're hauling in, and if we go into cutting the 3 sections of the tipping floor that are bad and it starts to exceed the 10 by 10 sections that we have on those 3, that would be the contingency that I would need for the tipping floor.
Okay.
Aaron, do you have an estimate on how long it'll be closed?
The closure would take place October the 12th and would not exceed it would close on Saturday and open not that Monday, but the following Monday, October 21st for regular business. If the contractor exceeds that, it would be a penalty to him and $1,000 a day. Similar to what we did last year when we did the large area of concrete. Now we're doing a drive in the tipping floor so that we're done with concrete work out there. From there, we can go to asphalt and not have a closure of our transfer station anymore.
What was the impact for that entire business week not being open? Were we able to handle?
We have preemptively kind of notified our commercial haulers that there could be a closure. From there, it would just be notifying the public, general public, that we're going to have that closure, and then from that point, impact-wise, the transfer station handled it well. I mean, when you close something, no matter what you do, you're going to have people that are slightly upset about it. It is just a week, and then the way we're doing it now with the drive up and the tipping floor, we shouldn't have to close again because we can asphalt between the sides and then not have any closures.
Okay.
Very good.
So, I'll entertain a motion to approve the
I
concrete
will
work.
make a motion to accept a low bid for the transfer station paving 2019 from Lentz Lawn and Construction in the amount of $62,460.76, not to exceed $68,000 as a contingency.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, we're ready for the county appraiser. Is he back there?
Bob back there.
Mr. Weber back there?
Maybe way back there.
Is Bob Weber back there?
Just go through the.
Thank you.
Bob Weber, come on down.
Maybe you didn't think we'd be this quick. Well, we can go ahead and get started on the tax relief thing.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Mr. Weber has had the foresight to adequately brief you on the issue. You can proceed.
Does anybody have any questions on the disaster tax relief from the tornado? Mr. Weber, maybe. Mr. Weber.
Hi,
I don't
Bob.
have any questions.
Morning, Weber.
Pardon me,
How are
I
you
got
today?
caught on the phone.
Morning. I have 5 properties here for property tax relief, board order. They were destroyed by the tornado on May 28th. There's 2 of them I didn't have insurance estimates for, but they are completely gone. They've been torn down. And and so they are destroyed. So I'm asking for pass this board order, reducing the taxes.
Is there some more still out there?
There's some more still out there. We've contacted them, but there's some people we've never been able to get some applications for. We went back and resent them letters and tried to contact them any way we could. So
Okay.
there's a few we've just never.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Weber? Then I'll consider a motion to approve Board Order 2019-6.
So moved.
I'll second it then.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the board order? None? Voting?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
I just hope that the
Thank you.
state will change it to where we can take outbuildings off when they get destroyed.
Understand.
So, anyway, thank you, Mr. Weber. Okay. All right. We're ready for planning and zoning.
Good morning, Mr.
morning.
Chairman and Commissioners. This is Resolution Number 2019-24. This is a public hearing item for a special use permit for Kirby Pumpkin Patch, which is a renewal of their special use permit. The applicant is requesting a renewal of their special use permit to continue the annual operation of a pumpkin patch. Kirby Pumpkin Patch is scheduled to be open from the last week of September through the last week of October. Most traffic created by this business will occur on Saturday and Sunday, just as it is for the last 15 years or so. Staff is supportive of this request. The Planning Commission voted 8-0 to recommend approval of this request. The applicant is here, I believe, and will answer any questions that you may have, as will we.
All right, this requires a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing portion of the resolution 2019-24 for the Kirby Pumpkin Patch. Anyone here and speaking in favor of this special use permit? Anyone here speaking in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close public hearing and return to regular session. And I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-24, a request to renew special use permit for Kirby Pumpkin Patch.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And this renewal's for 10 years. Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay.
This is Resolution Number 2019-25. This is a request to rezone a parcel of property from rural residential 2.5 to a planned unit development. Planned unit developments, according to the Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations, shall be for the purpose of encouraging and requiring orderly development at a quality generally equal to or exceeding that commonly found in projects developed under conventional zoning, but permitting deviations from the normal and established development techniques. The use of planned developments is intended to encourage efficient development compatible with resources and minimum waste of land. Planned unit developments should be designed in a manner that will produce more usable open space, better recreational opportunities, and safer and more attractive neighborhoods than under conventional zoning and development techniques. So, with that being said, the case was heard by the Planning Commission, of course, a few weeks ago. The Planning Commission raised some concerns. The applicants have addressed those concerns. I will go through those. The condition of 166th Street, there is some concern that the increase in traffic on 166 will continue to further deteriorate that road. The applicants have agreed to identify the existing entrance off of 170th, which is where the existing driveway comes off, as the primary entrance. There is some ag buildings towards the rear of the property and a horse stable that they would continue to use 166th Street to access that, but primarily for residences, it would be 170th Street. The school bus on 166th Street, the bus stop for any children utilizing the service will be at the end of the driveway on 170th Street, so we will not be adding an additional school bus stop on 166. Fencing of the property, there's currently fencing around portions of the property. Water infrastructure, the applicants are aware that each home will be required to be serviced by potable water. If it's required that line upgrades be made, the applicants are aware that ultimately that may be at their expense. On-site wastewater treatment, all homes within this development will be required to be on an approved on-site wastewater system, which will be required to meet the state and local regulations, just like every other house in the county. The following factors are to be considered by the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners when approving or disapproving a rezoning. These are the golden factors that we talk about. So the first is the character of the neighborhood. The character of the neighborhood is rural, agricultural, and rural uses are typically what's found. Zoning and uses of nearby property. The properties in the immediate area are zoned as rural residential, 2.5 acre, and they're used for residential, just like this parcel would also be. Suitability of the property for the uses to which it has been restricted. The property is well suited for single-family homes. The proposed development is consistent with the zoning district in that the density of the development will continue to be approximately 1 home per 2.5 acres. Extent to which removal of the restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby property. The area is not likely to be detrimentally impacted. The proposed development is in conformance with the spirit of the zoning and subdivision regulations. Again, we were talking about single-family residential homes in a single-family residential zoning district. Length of time the property has been vacant is zoned. It's not vacant, it's used as a single-family property. Relative gain to the economic development, public health, safety, and welfare. The proposed use will add homes to Leavenworth County. Conformance to the comprehensive plan. The future land use map indicates this area is rural residential growth. Staff recommendation is for the approval of the rezoning request. The Planning Commission did vote to recommend denial by a vote of 5-2 with 1 member absent and 1 member abstaining. The applicants are here and will answer any questions you may have, as will we.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
We've had a couple incidents come up, and I think maybe this has to be discussed when we meet with the Planning Commission, but when the Planning Commission board votes a different position than the staff, it would be very helpful if we would get a summary report on why they think the golden rules are not being observed or what their differences are with the staff. So I don't know if we can implement that in the future or look into some kind of a policy review on that.
Definitely, we'll be having work sessions with the Planning Commission on that. Again, they stated some concerns, so staff tried to address those concerns, and it's in the report. That's what Crystal kind of went through, all the concerns.
It might be helpful, even for us to look at the minutes even.
Before we open the session for public comment, there's something that I'd like to say, and I put it in writing so that I don't mess up.
Okay.
I'd like to address a situation that has come to my attention. It appears that several individuals who expressed opposition to the proposed Joy Meadows Plan Unit development have come under attack on social media and in printed news publications. When I was told about the negative consequences of opposing the request, I took the time to view the video of the September 11th Planning and Zoning meeting. I then read the news article and numerous Facebook posts and comments. Perhaps my impression of the meeting differed from several others because I listened without simultaneously planning my response. There are times when I fail to do so, when I'm really passionate about something. More often than not, when I don't actively listen to someone who disagrees with me, I can totally misinterpret a person's intentions or motivations, and those are definitely not my best moments. After listening several times to the video recording, my takeaway from the meeting was the same as Mark Denny's, and nothing like some of the opinions expressed in the newspaper or on social media. In this instance, I believe that the out-of-context quotes, hyperbole, and assumptions that were generated following a very civil and respectful meeting were misguided and the direct result of a failure to actively listen to what was being said. Why not directly ask the individuals involved for clarification rather than assuming the worst? I can think of very few people who embrace change or the unknown without question or in some cases fear. All of the concerns and questions that were brought before the Planning and Zoning Commission provided an opportunity for reducing stigma while addressing the legitimate concerns in a positive manner. Publicly attacking and belittling everyday citizens who used established protocols to express their concerns was, in my opinion, completely inappropriate response. Most certainly when those individuals were invited to do so by county representatives. It truly saddens me. Some of the issues that have been expressed by both proponents and opponents regarding the planned unit development have no bearing on the statutes and policies that will guide the decision regarding the proposed planned unit development. Conversely, some of them will. I would ask that regardless of the outcome of today's meeting, please do not let kindness and truth leave you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner have any comments
I just had
before we open up the public hearing?
a couple items.
Okay.
I think we need to make sure that we keep this on zoning issues, and I think that's what it's about. It's about zoning a single-family residential or planned unit development. That's what it's about. It's not about anything else. And I would like to recognize one of my constituents, Terry Sines. He addressed the issues that were concerning to him, which is what the property owners within 1,000 feet are given an opportunity to do. He then had a political cartoon made about him, and I reviewed what was said at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. He did not say what they said. The context of what he said, he did not say what the paper and the news media made it out. And he did not have that intention or meaning. I met with 50 property owners out in that area. They had concerns. I also met with the applicant. I urged them to come to a compromise on this issue. And there was an attempt made to do so. But if we can't all agree together that we are all in favor of foster children, we're all in favor of the 7,500 foster kids in Kansas, we all care about those kids. No matter how this zoning request comes out, no matter if this is the right property or not, we all support that effort. But I do think Terry Sines should be allowed to get his name and his reputation back.
Anyone else have anything before we open up the public hearing? We can do it in public hearing on the in favors. Okay. I'd like to limit the public hearing for 1 hour. Does commissioners have any problems with that? And allow the folks that live within 1,000 feet to be the first to speak. So anyone within 1,000 feet in favor? Huh? I did. I opened the public. Anyone within 1,000 feet in favor of this planned unit development, please come forward.
Just want to clarify. So we're the applicant, so we're in the process of obtaining the property. So would we be within 1,000 square feet? Because I just wanted to comment on what all of your comments have been, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone here. We, in this process, sent letters out to everyone because our intent in all of this is to help people, and it would never, ever, ever be anything to bring harm. So we didn't want that to happen to any of these neighbors, and the same thing happened to us. A lot of public comment and hurtful things were said personally, such as us funneling funds and using this as a racket, and that's hurtful, and I don't think that's anyone's intent here. What we want to do is do something that's good, and we want to do it according to the law and following legal procedures, and I believe that everyone here is wanting to do the same thing and exercise the opportunity to get to express their opinions in a civil manner, and I think we've done that and had multiple meetings to do so. So I just want you to know that all of that negative, any of that wasn't our intent in this process either. So, and as far as speaking in favor of it, you have the report in front of us. What we would say is we feel like it does follow within the guidelines of what a PUD is, and that's using what the standard developmental procedures are, but being innovative in the approach to conserve what some of the open areas would be, utilize it for residential properties, take advantage of some of the opportunities to do sort of the conservation unit developments, using the agricultural feel of that rural community, recognizing that there's properties out there that are everywhere from 1.5 acres to 20-acre lots, and then sort of combine that for what our intended purposes are, which are in front of you. So we feel like it would be within the nature and the spirit of what that community has. And you have the conditions in front of you also. There are many questions on how a final site plan would be platted and would be submitted again for approval. And that would be further worked out along with the staff, which is in one of the conditions there for you. And as far as some of the issues for sewage, water, all of that all has to be in compliance with the Leavenworth County Sanitary Code. Just by an approval of a PUD doesn't mean that we're saying we're above what all those requirements will be for future operations and development. And we'd be doing all of this in accordance with that for how this property could be best utilized. And I should have introduced myself. I'm Sarah Oberndorfer. I'm the chair of the board of directors for Joy Meadows.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm in favor of this.
Sorry, yeah, Mr. Chairman, I believe the applicants had a brief presentation that they
And
wanted
it's
to
fine if we
give.
want to continue without
That's-
it. It's
All
up
right.
to you all if you want presentation or comment. It's fine.
Commissioners? I mean, we've looked over everything, but
Okay.
that's fine.
It's-
If we got some time, if you'd like.
We've got time.
Okay, go ahead.
Standing people, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and do your presentation.
It's really about our report and the
Okay.
information in front of you, so.
I feel like we're going to be redundant in this, but I'm Justin Oberndorfer, live at 13901 Leavenworth Road, Mason, Kansas, trying to acquire property in Linwood. Joy Meadows established 2 years ago. We started kind of working without the 501c3 at the beginning because we were just starting the ministry. 2 years ago, we established Joy Meadows. Joy Meadows, yes, you guys know the property. It is the focus of this day, but our mission is to provide foster families with community support, housing, resources, so that children in foster care can find stability, healing, and joy. We are a 501c3, so we are a nonprofit. We have 3 different functioning ministries that we do. We do a clothing closet for emergency resources. When foster people get a load of kids, we give them a week worth of clothes in a suitcase for them to exist that first year, or first week. We have Fostering Joy, which is a network of churches that work together to best support foster families to meet those relational needs they need. It's beyond just getting a kid in your home, but how do we continue to support them in that way? Joy Meadows is a physical location. The purpose for their zone is to build additional homes on this tract of land for the development of Joy Meadows community. By doing this, we bring a successful community model from other states. This isn't like an original thought. We stole this from another state, and we saw how successful it has been, how counties all through the state of Kansas are desiring this. This is something that we have seen. It works. It's the most effective way to begin to help foster families remain sustainable in meeting those needs. By doing this, we are using the 2 existing driveways on 23, almost 24 acres. That is the process. We don't see that it's going to be overbearing on the traffic flow. And even on the max capacity that you've seen on the site plan, they could possibly have is still a minimum impact. It's still the same population density that it would have had anyway. The factors for the character of zoning is surrounded by single-family rural residents. That's who's already there. It's the same character. Within a quarter mile south is a large-scale agricultural. We would like to think that this is all country, but that is an industrial zoning area. That tract of land is also surrounded by a tree buffer and hills, which I know that we live in Kansas and trees do go away, leaves fall, but for a large percent of the time, it is pretty isolated where it's at. The driveway at 170th would be the primary entrance. It's about a quarter mile. It's a paved road onto another paved road, a Golden Road. The current zoning is rural residential 2.5 acre lots. The property zoned is industrial. The proposed development keeps the same use. The reason why we're doing PUD is to maintain some of the country feel of it. We've met with the zoning council, planning and zoning council, even clustering the homes to keep them closer together to leave the countryside, to keep some of the property spaced out. That's the reason why we did the zoning this way. Keep going. This is the lot. This is what we're talking about. This is the tract of land. Just so you understand, the lots, go ahead and go through. The one right below, that is Golden Road LLC. It doesn't have property on it. There's not a home on it. There's not a person there. The one directly north of it does not have a person on it. It's a treed property. So when we're talking about noise or the traffic of 170th, those are two lots that are empty currently. So suitability for a property, the density of the development is close to the same, like we've said before. We want to continue to use the existing property. It has an orchard, it has a garden, it has pasture space for the horses and stables for the horses. We want to keep the agricultural feel of it preserved. That is one thing, because it is about foster kids. That is a good thing. That is a healthy thing. That is a mental health issue. Development could be spaced and maintained in large lots or clustered and conserved in the conservation unit style, which has been proposed from the planning and zoning. We are following their lead on what they believe would be best for the area. The purpose of Joy Meadows communities to preserve the nature and the rural feel for the families. The children benefit from the space, from nature, from animals and agricultural. There's entire therapy places that go into this kind of an area just to have kids play in the trees, to play in the mud, to touch animals, to be with animals. That is a therapeutic thing for our own kids that we've seen, and also for kids who are in need. The service road, it will be maintained by Joy Meadows. That is the purpose of that road. We would maintain it like any HOA. The purpose of a PUD, just so we understand, the language in a PUD says this: to encourage efficient development compatible with the surrounding land uses, innovative and imaginative site planning, and minimal waste of land, which we believe that in every step that we've planned out our site plan currently, and even though we know that it might go through some tweaking along that part, we believe we are fulfilling that purpose of the PUD. Some factors that we need to talk about: increased population. Yes, there will be more than one family living on 24 acres. It'll increase population. It'll be a slow incremental process, but it'll be consistent even at the max capacity with the current area. It still would be a rural residential area. The increase of traffic, you can see into, we have a traffic engineer, they've since submitted for you, but even in the max capacity, we're talking about 3 extra trips in the morning, 7 extra trips at night. We're not talking about a giant increase of population with even the traffic flow engineer submitted to you, as you can see. Existing entrances, yet again, 170 is a primary one, bus stops there. I know that we feel that that was a big issue for planning and zoning, that everybody's concerned about buses driving down the 166th, and it just doesn't, it can't be done. It's not possible. That was never a plan, never intention. That became an issue. We are making sure everybody knows we will go to the paved roads at the end of the long driveways where the kids will get picked up. The development will provide unique amenities to the local residents not typically found within subdivisions in Leavenworth County. You can see in the site plan, there's things that have been negotiated, people good or bad, but we have in there a park that is potential use. That could be a negative to some, positive to others. But yet again, this is something that's not already offered out there. The property currently has single-family residential homes, and that will continue. That doesn't change. Just so, now factors to gain for the public health and welfare. We're going to provide additional homes to the county, single-family homes, to help alleviate the burden for foster care in our county and state. I know this is not about foster care, but this is what it does provide. Bringing resources to families in our county to ease the burden for mental health services. You can see in your attachment, we have letters from everybody in the mental health area, everybody who's in the foster care world. They're like, we need this everywhere. We're also bringing help to the school district. You can see the letter from the psychologist at Base or Linwood. She's writing saying that she supports what Joy Meadows does and also what it brings to help alleviate that need in the school systems as well. We're also bringing innovative and imaginative style site planning. That is the purpose of a PUD. The construction, the custom quality homes, that is what a PUD is for. We're also bringing trained and educated, qualified, financially stable families. These are not freeloaders, these are not degenerates, these are people who have jobs and careers that do this and they're excellent at what they do. They're trained above the level of any other person, of any other neighbor you would ever know. The stable families in the area also contribute to the community. Not only are they going to be on this location, but they're also the same families that will be on your kids' teams. They're going to be the kids' school system. They're going to be the mentors in the community. They're going to be going to your churches. It's all the same people. We've heard the numbers. 7,700 kids in care. We've got 2,900 foster homes. I know it's not about foster care, but we're in a crisis state of Kansas. That's double the number from 10 years ago. So there is something that's not right, that we need to start doing some radical things to change it. I feel like this is one way that Leavenworth County could do something to contribute to the good of the state of Kansas within this cause as well. When you start looking at the counties, I gave this number last time, I know it doesn't matter, but it's 1,600 kids in these 4 counties. 1,600 homeless kids in these counties right now. Some are still not placed in school as of right now because there's no homes that will take them right now. What we do, we add additional homes to the counties. Why I gave all 4 counties is because right now kids don't ever stay in the county they're in. The needs are too great, like for Wyandotte, it's a 6-to-1 ratio. So those kids get placed in Leavenworth County homes. They get placed in Johnson County homes. So those 4 counties, we're looking at this, the quadrant of that area. Every county takes the weight of that need throughout. So the children in care, I think we're clear on this now. This was a question when we first started the conversation. The kids are not the abusers. The kids are the ones that have been neglected. They've been abused. They're products of drug abuse, and they're the ones a product of poverty, mental illness. This is the reason why kids are in care. And the state looked at the parents and said they're not suitable, and so they brought the kids out of the traumatic situation and put them into safe, caring, loving homes. That's what foster care is. That's what these kids are. They're not the violent ones that are sometimes perpetrated. This is what a family looks like. This is my family. I'm not the family on this property, but this is what a foster family looks like. This is what we're talking about. A family with biological kids and some foster kids. That's what the population would look like. That's what the current household would look like. That's a family of 9 people. That's 7 kids in that picture. That's what we're talking about. Homes that would look like this. Families that would look like this in this property. And that's what we're here to communicate. It's just, I know this has become very political. It's become very loud. Thank you, Vicki, for sharing your opinions of what has happened. From my family side of it, we have never spoken negatively of the neighbors because we plan on being their neighbors. We've never went down that road. We have met with them. We have sent letters. We met again with they have kind of a coalition together, and they had 3 people, 3 families they wanted to represent. Met with them as well and tried to talk it out. And Mike has gone to great lengths of meeting with us, meeting with them, meeting with the groups, meeting with other groups, answering emails. I know he's been worn out by this. I just wanted you to know that for my family, for what we have done, I can't control what the city of Kansas City does when they see something and hear something. But for our family and what we have done, we have never said anything. We've never gone negative or dark on any of it. So that's my presentation. I hope you guys consider what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask him a question?
Yes, sir.
I had a question for you. I got a letter from a guy named Dennis Casey. He was the original owner of the property, and I just want to see how you react to this. He said that the driveway that runs from 170th Street all the way through the 166th Street was never intended for significant traffic when it was built. It was a narrow lane, and when you go up or down the hill on 170th Street from the house, it would often be difficult if somebody else was coming from the opposite direction. He continued, during the winter time, when we had 1 or more inches of snow or ice, the driveway was impassable down to 170th Street from the house and would require you to go to 166th Street to be able to get out. And this is the original owner of the property. He said, I would have to plow 166th Street from my back driveway up to Loring Road just to be able to get out and go to work. And it said also, anytime you used 166th Street, which I guess if it's snowy, you can't go the other route. It said anytime you use 166th Street, you were sure to encounter traffic from the opposite direction, which would require somebody to get off the edge of the road so that they could not pass each other. So have you considered the difficulties of using 166th Street?
Yeah, we've talked with road engineers, talked about what we might have to do. Obviously, bringing in some material in order to raise that level of the road is going to be a requirement, like that's something we're going to have to work on. It's still the primary entrance that we're desiring to go through.
So the engineer said the county would have to raise the level?
No, I'm sorry, did I say county?
Well, I thought you said the
No,
road
it's our
would have to
private
be raised.
road.
Okay,
Sorry.
you're talking about the private road.
I'm not touching 170th.
166.
Oh, no,
Right.
I'm just talking about 170th. I'm talking about the entrance from 170th.
Right,
That's the road.
okay,
talk
I get
about the
it.
road because we're not supposed to access 166, so I'm not really worried about that side. But I'm more concerned about it is a steep uphill, like there's no question. And even the current owners right now would tell you That's hard.
So your engineer says you will be able to use the 170th?
Well, we just told him the
exit.
problem. He said, well, I mean, it's just like anything. A lot of these things we don't have answers to because we don't own the property. We're not on it. We're just trying to execute the process. So I can't really speak. We've talked to engineers about what do we do when this happens, and it's a lot of moving dirt, adding material. That's what it is on that driveway.
Well, I know 170th is a lot easier, but I've been down 166th, and it is extremely, if you added many additional cars of traffic, if you added much more traffic on that.
And what we did, we did write in the site plan that that's supposed to be limited access, limited use. That's why we put it there.
Okay. So you think you'll be able to overcome this as far as the wintertime use? You'll probably be able to use it?
There's going to be a lot of things we'll have to overcome on that property. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I did receive this letter.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this?
Yes, I'm Molly Parker. I live in the Glenwood Ridge subdivision, which is right down the street from the elementary school. All my kids they all went to the elementary school last year. I've got a son that's in the middle school now across the street. So, and two of my kids are from foster care. They were in foster care for 3 years, and we adopted them last year. And so they've been in the school district that these other kids would be attending. And I've been really pleased with the ability for our teachers and the staff at the school to be able to support our children. They've done an excellent job providing excellent extra supports for them, meeting their needs. And I haven't heard any concerns from any of the other parents at school about my kids. And I know that there's probably several other foster children that are already in the school district that we just don't know about because they're wonderful kids. My kids are straight A students, and they've never had any behaviors at school. So I just wanted to address that concern and say that I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
What was your name?
Molly Parker.
Molly Parker. Thank you.
Thank you.
And like I said, once again, we're here to decide the plan unit development. Feel free to speak. If you're in favor of this, of the planned unit development.
You can go ahead. This one's going to lose interest real quick.
It's their meeting. You said you're going to do the 1,000
I live a couple of miles.
Yes.
And now we're going way off tangent.
Okay. Anyone within 1,000 feet in favor of this project, please come forward. Okay. All right.
Or with the small kids that aren't going to keep
Anyone?
2 miles, not 1,000.
Yeah.
Anyone in favor that's outside the 1,000 feet can come forward now.
At least give us 30 minutes to wait.
We will.
We're going to run out of time.
We will.
Don't worry.
What are you calling now?
You'll get equal.
Anyone
you'll
who's
get equal
outside
time.
1,000 feet in favor? Yes.
Yeah, that's you. You're fine.
Okay. Hi, I'm Betsy Hermrich. I'm at 17270 Stillwell Road. So I'm a couple miles to the north of the property. And I feel like I'm in an interesting position because I'm for Joy Meadows. Some of our dearest family friends are dead center in the middle of 166th Street on that dead end. And so I go there often, and I understand that that's 166th Street is not a desirable street to add traffic to. I don't think anybody could argue that. However, I trust the Obendorfers. They've been at this for 2 years, and if they say they're not going to use that as a primary access, they're not. They're going to use 170th Street. And so I just feel like over 10 years, if we add 10 houses there, I don't think going on that road is going down 170th to Golden Road is going to cause any significant traffic. I think about Bear Lake just to the east of us and being on 32 Highway, and I never am driving that and have to stop or slow down for people to come in and out of Bear Lake, which is way more houses than Joy Meadows will be. And I think of Tall Oaks to the other side of us, west of us, during prime camping season when there's hundreds of campers coming, again, I'm on those roads and I never have to. I'm never having to slow down or wait for somebody to come out. I just don't think that the traffic impact of it is significant when they're going to use 170th. I think that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Elizabeth Milbergradic, and I live at 172nd and Evans Road. I know this isn't about foster care, but at the last meeting, I don't remember who it was, but one of the concerns was if children come off of that property and run through the woods, are they going to end up on my property? I wish I could have stood up and defended that comment that day because I've done foster care, and I had a girl in my home that didn't want to be with me. She didn't want to live by my rules. And she actually didn't go out into my woods and take off like none of us would. If we ran away, we're not going to go out in the woods. We're going to do what she did. She called her boyfriend, and he picked her up at the end of my driveway, and she left. I was like, she didn't go out in the woods. She didn't go out and play with anybody's animals. She didn't even go to my neighbors. She got in her car and left. So if that's a concern about a child wandering off into another neighborhood, usually they have a friend that'll come and get them. So I was thinking on the way here, we all have fears. We have fears of growth. I had a fitness class at my house last night, and people came in, they're like, we're scared, because they're going to grow physically. We have fears of, everybody's got a different fear. And I was that person a few years ago. We had a developer buy property right beside us. And we were so scared of the unknown that my husband and I could not sleep for nights. We were restless. We were hearing rumors all over the neighborhood. They're going to put in roads coming up to our driveway. They're going to put 25 homes right next to us, and our dogs aren't going to be able to run, and I'm going to have to keep my dogs at a fence and my kids, and we were scared. And God gave me a sense of peace and said, let go and let me have control of this. And I just remember feeling this sense of peace, like I can either fight this or I can get involved. And I'll tell you what, fast forward to today, I've got some wonderful neighbors. We eat dinner together, we do life together, and when God told us way back in those days to love our neighbors, He knew what He was talking about. And if the worst thing I have to do is look across the backyard and see a bright red barn, or if I have to hear someone's dog barking, if that's the worst I have to live with in America, praise the Lord. Because I'll tell you what, there's other third world countries that got bigger things to gripe about. And if the worst thing I have today is 5 new homes beside me and best friends, praise the Lord. I'm thankful for what the Lord did in my life, that I did not know the gift that He gave me. And what I encourage all of you to do is to get involved with your neighbors. No matter what they're standing for, get involved in it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is John Olivote. I'm a planning commissioner in Edwardsville. I'm also on the Zoning Appeals Board. I'm on the Landmark Commission in KCK and also on their steering committee. I'm also a CAAZ volunteer. That's the court-appointed. You're familiar with that.
Oh, my.
And I do have to disagree with Commissioner Stieben that this is not about foster care. Your staff has already looked at the zoning issues here, and they've passed this. They've agreed with this project. So the thing that's opposing it is the purpose of it, and that is the use of it for foster care. And so this is the thing that
That's not what we can consider.
I understand that. I understand it, and I hope you
And
don't.
that was my point.
And I hope you don't. But we've already seen that in the media, that that's what's going to be addressed. They're going to look at your staff report, and they're going to say, the zoning issues here said yes to this project.
We have to follow the law as far as what the requirements are.
Absolutely.
And that is it.
Absolutely.
That is it.
Absolutely. And I've been on that side where we've had the neighbors come in, and we have to look at the golden criteria. We have to look at our staff
Correct.
report.
And that's what we're doing.
You're saying the same thing.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
just saying it's supposed to be about zoning, but it's
Right.
really about
Yeah.
the foster.
But that's
Right.
let's face it, that's
It's
what's going to
what
appear
people
in the
have made it
media.
into.
That's what's already
Yeah.
appeared in
You're
the
saying the
media.
same thing.
Right.
And the guys that are here from the Star and the guys that are here from Channel 4 aren't here because of their love of zoning issues.
Exactly. Thank you. That's
So
exactly correct.
This is that's the elephant in the room that we're dealing with, folks. So I would encourage you, absolutely, look at the law, look at the golden criteria, look at your staff report, And I think you're going to come up with a yes answer. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. John, what did you say your last name was? I didn't get it.
Oliver. Want me, I can spell it for you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
A-L-T-E, V as in Victor, O, G as in George, T as in Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I'd have never got that.
Most people do.
Okay.
Hey, can you keep an eye on the time?
I am.
Our hours?
10 o'clock,
48 minutes,
we'll
we
do.
won't have our opportunity.
At 10 o'clock, we will switch.
Everybody's going to get their time.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Chively, and I work for the Sisters of Charity of Leavenworth in our Social Justice Office. As you imagine, I have a lot of concerns about the foster care system, and a lot of our sisters have been involved in foster care. In fact, we have one who's done foster care in Denver for a long time, and I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but I also have the privilege of having been a planning and zoning commissioner for the city of Coffeyville for several years. And so, like the previous speaker, I was surprised when I looked at the case and then looked at the outcome of the meeting, simply because not only is it consistent with the zoning requirements, but also I've been a part of our planning process, the visioning meetings we've been having for the county, as well as the workshops that have been going on. And at every one of those meetings, one of the wants, but not critical needs for the county, is more open spaces and more parks. And when you look at this case, you know, they're providing open spaces and parks to the public. And so I think it's hard to set that aside. Not only are they doing something good for the foster care system in the state of Kansas, not only are they following the regulations, but they're also providing a public benefit to the county. And when all of the visioning and all of the planning documents for our next county plan have identified that as something that we want but don't necessarily want to spend funds for, I think that, you know, that's a net benefit that we have to take into mind. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Strom. I'm a property owner in Linwood at 502 East 2nd Street and 22014 Loring Road. I've lived in Linwood for many years, and I've seen the development that's been going on to the west of Linwood with a lot of the new parcels and developments going up, and I haven't had any problems with traffic for that. And it's definitely not even the size of what Joy Meadows is planning. That's going to be a much slower growth, and so I don't have any concerns from a traffic study, especially being a Linwood resident. I believe Joy Meadows is an amazing organization, and they have qualified and dedicated leadership and a board, and I think that having them in the Linwood community would be an awesome asset, and they'd be providing valuable services to both the foster community and our county and the Linwood community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, I got to apologize first. I kind of lost my voice a couple of days ago, but I'll speak into the mic. I'm Cameron Kelly. I live at 13851 166th Street. It's about a mile and a half straight north of the proposed property. I live between 166th and 170th. And this morning when I go out on my front porch, I watch the sun rise over 166th Street, over a pasture that's got cattle in it, and I really like that. But the fact of the matter is, in 10 years, there's probably going to be 4 houses over there. I don't own that property. I would like it to just continue to be the sunrise, but I live in southern Leavenworth County, 2 miles north of Johnson County. I live there because I work in Corporate Woods, and it's a 25-minute drive. So development is coming because of the location we're in. I've been to the meeting here last month where the Planning and Zoning Commission met. I've been to the meeting last week, the small meeting with some representatives of the neighbors, and listened. And it really sounds to me like the major concern is just wanting to keep things the way they are. And I get that. I want to keep the things around my property the way they are too, but that's not where I live. I don't live where I grew up. Where I grew up, my parents moved there 40 years ago, and the closest neighbor was a mile away. 40 years later, the closest neighbor is still a mile away. Plainville, Kansas. People don't want to move there. There's no opportunity. We don't live in that area. It's going to happen. There's been houses built within the 5 years that I've been there, probably 20 of them within 2 miles in the last 3 or 4 years. So it's just going to happen. And so as far as, what it's going to look like, what the growth is going to look like, I think what Joy Meadows wants to do is right in line with what is going to happen. And traffic is going to increase. Roads are going to need to be improved. Over time, whether Joy Meadows is there or not, houses are being built on 166th Street, and that's going to continue to happen. And so I think that's the main thing I wanted to say. And also, I just feel like the neighbors that would be in the Joy Meadows community, they're going to be very quality people, I believe. They're going to be hand-selected to live there. They're going to get a really big benefit to live in that setting on that property. And so they're going to be hand-selected people who have been in the foster care system helping kids for many years. They're going to be very stable. They're going to be very good neighbors. And I really look forward to having a neighborhood like that in southern Leavenworth County. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. My name is Steve Scott. I live in Baser, and I want to thank you for your service to the citizens of Leavenworth County. I'm here speaking in favor of the acquisition of property for Joy Meadows to support foster children and foster families. I understand that neighboring residents fear that the establishment of a foster care community might pose a threat to their safety and or property, not to mention a negative impact on their property valuations. Your fears are, I think, understood but unfounded. With all due respect, I assure you that your concerns are valid, but I believe without merit. These are children we're talking about, not convicted criminals, not juvenile delinquents. These are children who will be placed in structured and loving environments that will help ensure they don't grow up to become convicted criminals or juvenile delinquents. These are children who, for no fault of their own, have fallen on hard times in every imaginable way. And what they need most are families and communities that will treat them with dignity and compassion. And when I say community, that includes all of us. That's everyone in this courtroom, not just Joy Meadows. We are all responsible for the children in our community to a greater or lesser degree. To turn a deaf ear to their plight for fear that our property might be placed at risk or that our property values might take a hit is a sure sign that we've lost our way. To be more concerned about the value of a home than the value of a life, especially the life of an innocent child, is really a sad commentary on our current state of affairs. Where's our sense of that which is noble and right and good and decent and humane? You know, there was a time in our country's history where the goal of existence was considered to lie outside of oneself, living in a way that would benefit others, working for the greater good of society and our fellow man. So today we must choose to do the right thing, to value human life and to value the future of our children more than the perceived prospect of material loss. Jesus' words in Matthew 22 are instructive when he said the greatest commandment is that we would love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is like it, to love our neighbor as ourselves. I pray that we would take these words to heart.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You got a minute. We got to switch to the opposition here.
I'd just like to say, well said. I couldn't say it better. My name is Wendell Esplin, Board of Commissioners. I appreciate the time to be able to speak in front of you. Thank you for your time. And the audience, thank you for being here and caring. My name is Wendell Esplin. I'm a lifelong civil servant. I started in the Air Force 17, did my time with the federal government, and retired. I'm 61 years old. I live on 198th Street and Evans Road. There is a need in our state. There is a need in our community. The Oberdorfers have modeled a successful community to foster these children. We have a chance to shed our light on Leavenworth County to make a positive impact. And I'm just praying that you guys will do the right thing and we can shed a good light on Leavenworth County and make an example to help these children in need. There's a need here. Let's vote for this. Let's support this. And let's help these people with these fears that are worried about the neighborhood being destroyed. This is a positive thing. you people are going to realize that you are going to have a development that's going to prosper your area. It's not going to destroy your area, it's going to make it better. And I just thank you for this time.
Thank you. Wendell, I thought you moved away. I didn't know you were still down there. It's good to see you again. I hadn't seen him for a long time.
Steve Rosenthal, 22715 171st Street in Baser. You know me as the chairman of the
Planning Commission, yeah.
However, I abstain from this because my firm is insisting on the sale of this property, so I abstain from that. However, I do want to say I am for this project, and I've known Justin and his family for years, long-time Baser residents. The property is 24 acres. It is zoned. Our zoning in that area is 2.5 acre zoning, so we are encouraging 2.5 acre zoning in that area. It is consistent with our plan. It would be a PUD instead of a subdivision, which makes it that parcel, the way it's shaped now, it would be probably impossible for someone to go ahead and do a regular subdivision with it and put in the roads that are required by the county. But as the Planning and Zoning Department pointed out, it does meet the golden factors, and I want you to, and that is the most important thing to consider today. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to have to switch on our 30 minutes for in favor and switch to opposition. I'd like to hear from anybody within 1,000 feet first.
Hi, my name's Terry Williams. I live at 12725 166th Street. I'm about
That's not within 1,000 feet. I want to hear from anybody within 1,000 feet first, so I can make sure they get heard.
My name's Dan Marshall. I live at 12520 170th Street. Can we pull up the administrative packet and put up page 113?
It's going to take a second so you can.
This is a planned unit development. Looking at page 56, 57 of the subdivision and zoning regulations. Procedures, number 1 states that the proposed PUD rezoning shall be accompanied by a development plan meeting the requirements for the site plan as specified in Article 27. Article 27, that it would be prepared to scale 1 inch equal 50 minimum. It would have direction arrows of the flow of water, the contour lines, which would have been very helpful to determine the nearly 150-foot elevation change and the 170-foot or 170th Street access. The rezoning application, I questioned about it, and I want to put it on public record, although it's been dismissed. The sign posting regulations. There was never a sign posted on 166th Street, as the application said was required. The sign on 170th was removed 48 hours after the Planning Commission meeting. When I questioned the staff a week later, I was told signs blow away and the applicants were on their way to get a new sign. I pointed out that Friday before the planning staff told the county administrator that the signs was only required through the public hearing of the Planning Commission. But the sign posting procedures say it is required to be posted through final action of the BOCC. Then I was told that the sign posting was not required at all. And within 2 days, the sign posting procedures were removed from all applications that required sign posting. That was convenient. But miraculously, that evening, signs appeared on both 166th and 170th. I made an open records request for the sign posting certification. That was never provided because I'm sure they don't have one. In the administrative packet, it mentions the hiking and biking trail to be open to the public. When we sat down, my wife and a couple other neighbors with Sarah, she's made it clear that they really don't want public up on the hill. So that's not exactly accurate. The multi-purpose building in the park area on your packet, that's inaccurate. It states that the rezoning request is in conformance with Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations. I found inaccuracies in many of those. Nor does this proposal comply with Leavenworth County sanitary code, which requires 2.5 acres per lot, per household. That's like every subdivision, whether it was Rocking Sea or, I can't remember all the names that are in my letter. Is that up?
You said.
Page 113.
I opened them.
Thank you.
You want your letter up, is that what you're asking for?
Yes, the first page of my letter. Concerns by the Planning Commission. They were, I assume, inferred because there were no minutes available on the website or in your guys' administrative packet. I know the BOCC minutes from Wednesday the 25th were on the website 2 days later, but I also, when I requested in my open records request the specific reasons why it was recommended disapproval, that would be in the minutes, but I still haven't received that.
The minutes are in draft form. They get approved at the next Planning Commission meeting.
Well, they were approved at the 25th. They were approved on the 25th according to the Planning and Zoning agenda for 9/25. So what did they approve? We can't confirm, they should have been there. They should be available. I mean, if the BOCC can have them within 2 days, I don't know why we can't within 2 or 3 weeks of a planning commission. In my opinion, the goal here is to force a rezoning. To force a rezoning through and loosen the restrictions on the property, allowing more flexibility in development without having to come before the Planning Commission and the BOCC in the future. What Joy Meadows is trying to accomplish is commendable, but does not fit into typical zoning. That is why Drum Family Farms in Independence,
Sir, your 5 minutes were up.
they have their own zoning class.
Okay, thank you.
Can we put your density map back up there?
Can we keep that up?
She didn't show that.
Page 113.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition within 1,000 feet?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning.
Sorry, I'm not a public speaker, so I wrote out my letter like Vicki, but I don't make mistakes. My name is Stephanie Marshall. I live at 12520 170th Street in Linwood. My property is 2 houses north of the proposed development site. I'm here to voice my opposition to the rezoning request, more commonly known as the Joy Meadows project. I have already submitted a couple of letters to each of you stating my opposition to this project and my reasons for that opposition. Nowhere did I state my opposition was due to foster children, no matter how hard the seller tries to make being opposed to this rezoning synonymous with being opposed to foster care. I won't bore you by repeating the contents of my previous letters, but I do want to point out a couple of troubling items. The first being in the factors to be considered and the character of the neighborhood as indicated by staff. Staff indicate that this parcel, when zoned to POD, will contain large lot single-family homes in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. However, they go on to state that these homes will be concentrated in a single area. I am not sure how concentrated in a single area means large lots. Staff continually mention a park with a playscape and parking, hiking, biking trail, multi-purpose building, open-air event space, sand volleyball, and picnic tables, all for public use. If you review the submitted development plan from page 80 of the administrative packet and other documents provided by Joy Meadows, you will see that the only public space is an optional park near the entrance at 170th Street, which, by the way, is behind a locked gate. All other amenities mentioned by the Planning Department as public are listed as private in that development plan. I wonder if the Planning Department is reviewing the same development plan they have included in this packet, as there are several discrepancies. I would ask that you follow the advice from your Planning Commission and deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think they're going to have a locked gate, is what I've been told.
Okay.
Thanks.
My name is Terry Sines. I live at 12530 166th Street in Linwood. I came to Leavenworth County in 1968 as a child. I've been here my whole life. My wife and I bought this piece of property in the early 90s, and I've been self-employed since 1993. Everybody has a story of life and sacrifices. We all choose where we want to live and what kind of neighborhood we want to live in. I choose where I'm at. I've lived there for 26 years. I've seen lots of changes, some good and bad. September 11th, I came to the Planning and Zoning meeting, unprepared and unrehearsed, got up, made some comments about my thoughts that were taken grossly out of context. I've been attacked since then viciously. I'll say this. I would personally welcome the Oakendorfers to move to our neighborhood. Absolutely, they're welcome there. I've heard nothing but good about them. But I want them to be there as a single family unit, not as what there is proposed. I believe that if they want to do their, which is not supposed to be about their situation, I believe that they should have to follow all county regulations and rules as they apply. I don't think the rules should be changed for them just for what they're doing. We all like kids in our neighborhood. We're not demons. We're not devils. We're not racists, and we're not bigots. We just want to live our lives where we choose to have lived our lives. And if you want to see my comments that were taken out of context, they're on video at 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 20 seconds. If you want to reiterate, my concerns about my cattle being close to the property had nothing to do with the safety of my cattle. It was the safety of children. Cattle are dangerous. They can be dangerous. I've been injured many times by them, by my own. I think this is a travesty. I think the victims are right here. This thing's been way out of proportion. This is a rezoning issue. I made comments about rezoning. I made no comments about Joy Meadows or children. So I just hope people find the truth, and hopefully everyone will come to the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Charles Graham. I live at 12537 166th Street, Linwood, Kansas. 2 properties to the north of the proposed Joy Meadows development. I'm present here before you to express my concern with PUD zoning request and to declare my opposition to the zoning change of the proposed development property from RR 2.5 to planned unit development. I'm also before you to express my love for all children and living creatures in general, and that my position on this matter has nothing to do with fear, bullying, hate, greed, nor personal financial gain. I am not here to attack foster children, nor am I here to attack the supporters of Joy Meadows. My objection to the requested zoning change for the purpose of this meeting is focused on 2 points. Point number 1, the request to change the zoning is premature based on promises from a corporation, and that the proposed plan does not include any ownership for the needed improvements to 166th Street to support the additional road traffic generated by this operation, which the corporation has stated they would use that access. Joy Meadows is a 3-phase plan to be completed over the course of 15 years using donated funds to complete all phases of the plan. The first phase, as stated in the proposal from Joy Meadows, is using funds already received from contributors to purchase the existing property, including the house and outbuildings, and to add a covered arena to the existing stable, as well as making improvements to the basement of the home and constructing a public playground. The plan is somewhat vague regarding the length of time to complete Phase 1, but does state in Phase 2 that the goal is to have 5 homes on the property by year 7. The final phase promises to build a recreational facility and add additional homes not yet completed in the first 2 phases, with the goal being to have all this completed within 15 years. My objection to this first point is that the zoning should not be changed on a promise to complete all phases, and that there is no mention in the plan to make improvements to a connecting street that doesn't currently allow two-way traffic. I contend that the county should deny the request until the corporation is ready to begin construction of the first additional home. At that time, the request for zoning change would be timely. A responsible approach from the county should require that all financial obligations regarding road improvements from a requesting corporation have been secured in advance to support their proposed plan and the increased traffic impact to the public road 166th Street. The rural water district will require an upgrade to the existing supply line feeding the water to this property, and those improvements will be paid by the property owner when the first new meter is requested. The first home will also require a septic study recommendation paid in advance of certifying the sewer. The county should therefore also require that the requesting corporation be held financially responsible to improve 166th Street as a contingency for changing the zoning. Point number 2, changing the zoning from a very specific zoning rule, RR 2.5, to a rule that is as subjective as planned unit development could prove to be a future disaster. Considering that change of ownership has no bearing on the interpretation of the zoning rules from one owner to the next under RR 2.5. However, PUD could allow, under current definition, 4 homes per acre in the event the current multi-million-dollar corporate promise of 10 homes in 15 years fails to come to fruition. A simple change of ownership coupled with this zoning change could result in as many as 92 homes being built instead of the proposed 10. Joy Meadows states in the zoning change application supporting documentation that, I quote, Joy Meadows wants to maintain the residential 2.5 acre zoning. However, this requires 200 feet of street access per home, unquote. I propose that an alternative to planned unit development with a private drive could be to maintain RR 2.5 zoning with 200 feet of road frontage, require 166th Street improvements, and require a public road be built to meet county standards between 166th and 170th instead of allowing a private drive. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ed McCarty. My wife and I live at 12490 166th, which is directly east of the subject property. Our driveway actually meets their driveway on 166th. Our house is up on top of the hill. When the leaves are off the trees, we have direct line of sight to the entire property about 6 months out of the year. We searched for months to find a place to move from Overland Park to where we are. The preferences on our search were privacy, we're a rural area with rural zoning to protect our future as rural citizens. My wife still works in Overland Park. I'm privately employed as a equine dentist. The zoning as the PUD of what they're talking about doing, we'd be looking at a complex of up to 10 homes over a period of years with a population of 80 to 90 people, plus all the people coming in and out as far as the therapy, as far as the equine operation. The traffic, it really doesn't make any difference to me whether it's 170th or 166th. If they want to use 170th, and if they can get by with using it, more power to them. But what I'm looking at is a mega complex. The map up there shows the density of current residents. You can see on most acreages, there's 2 people to 4 people. The bottom center would be the density of residents on that property, which is a little different than our zoning that we're used to in our zoning, and a little different than the zoning really would like to see. The other point that I'm wanting to make is that the land is not subject to be built on with the driveway. We were there when Dennis bought the 5 acres off Stanley Stout. Stanley was glad to get rid of it because it's nothing but a rocky hill. Dennis bought it for a driveway for his wife to get out onto 170th. It is not good for anything except a driveway, and it's going to be tough to improve. It's solid rock. So that leaves it down to about 18 acres. There's a steep drop off of woods that will never be built on. So we're looking at probably 10 homes, plus the multi-use building, plus everything else, being crammed onto about 14 acres. Now, I own 14.2 acres. I know what it'd be like to put 10 houses and a big arena, which I would love to have, on my 14 acres. That is a long ways away from 2.5 acres only. I want to be very clear that I am not against the concept. I'm on staff at Tall Oaks. Been there since 2005. I work with muscular dystrophy kids, autistic kids, inner city kids, kids that come from broken homes. We work with kids that just want to be kids. This is not about the foster kids. I am for the foster program. I love kids. I do business with the, let me get their name right here, Missouri Christian Youth Home at Lamont, Missouri, that's near Sedalia. They have a complex just about like what we're talking about here. They've got a school, they've got a horse arena, they've got a therapy program, and they've got a bunch of homes all together for mutual support, and that concept is great. They're very successful. They're out in a totally rural area where the kids can be free. Nobody's bothering them. They're not bothering anybody. And, their kids are great. I go out and work with them with the horses. I do dentistry on their horses. I've gotten to know the staff. I've gotten to know the ownership. And it's a beautiful concept. This could be a very worthy concept. Could be great for the county. Could be great for the foster program. And right now it appears to be a worthy project in a very poorly chosen site. And that's, one other point I wanted to make, and it's not in my notes, but we've been talking about 166th, and they say, okay, we're not going to use it. We've been out there through the construction of all the new homes, and Dennis building his. Construction traffic cannot use 170th. All the big trucks come down 166th. They can't get up that driveway, so that makes that kind of tough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Joanne Cook. I live at 12480 170th Street. We are 2 driveways north of the proposed rezoning. Joy Meadows it's never been a question about Joy Meadows. It's not a question of whether we're for or against Joy Meadows. None of this is. It is a zoning question that we are addressing. The neighbors in the impact zone are actually not on trial. And it's been brought up earlier today that the neighborhood in the impact zone have been villainized in social media and in the printed press. But the neighborhood is not on trial. My relationship with God is also not on trial because I choose to take care of the poor and the fatherless and the widows in a different medium than is proposed. And again, that is really not what is at issue. For or against Joy Meadows is not the issue here. The issue here is the PUD rezoning. My concern is that PUD leaves, it's too open-ended for me. There are questions that remain unanswered. And with that zoning being passed without those questions being put in place, which would probably be required if any other developer came in. They have not been addressed. That's too open-ended for me, and it leaves me a great deal of concern. Now, I want to just, 5 minutes isn't enough time, but I want to address just a couple. Our driveway is a rather steep incline. It is a paved driveway. We have ruined a transmission in a two-wheel drive vehicle trying to ascend our driveway to get out in inclement weather. We currently own all-wheel drive vehicles to facilitate us getting in and out of our property, and even that in poor conditions is difficult. Now, the comparison of my rather steep incline to the property in question, my driveway would be considered a short, gentle slope in comparison to the driveway that is in question. So, the petitioners have indicated that 170th Street would be their primary access in and out, and that is great. I want them to have their dream, but we can't dream. We have to deal with reality. It is unrealistic to believe that that driveway will accommodate the type of vehicular traffic that will go up and down it. I can speak from personal experience because I live there. It's bedrock. The previous property owner, it cost him $30,000 just to excavate that driveway that currently exists to 170th Street. So again, I feel like it can't just be a promise. It can't be of the word of the petitioner. I think that there needs to be some realistic evidence that this will be managed before the PUD is passed. I think that is a legitimate concern. I think it's something that should be addressed in this open-ended question of PUD. Another concern I have is with the water and septic. Again, this is not in place. The open-ended nature of a PUD, this has not been addressed prior to the rezoning. Water rights have not been obtained. Septic system has not been professionally drawn out in a professional plan. It's all thoughts and ideas and desires. That is not adequate. Again, the open-ended nature of this rezoning concerns me because of the issues at hand that have not been addressed in conjunction with this rezoning. Again, it is not ever about Joy Meadows. We have met with the Obendorfers, and that is an irrelevant issue. I don't want it muddied by the foster care system because that is not what we are addressing here. It is the rezoning. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lamont Cook. I'm at 12480 170th Street, Linwood. We are the four dots. Just second driveway, my wife just spoke. Thank you for your service as commissioners. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. My approach to this has been really from a professional standpoint. I met with the Obendorfers before the Planning and Commission meeting. I wanted to understand. I like to understand things rather than make emotional decisions. I want to understand the nature of their organization, what they're doing, their purpose. Is it reasonable? Is it feasible? And that's why I'm here today. We're talking about a corporation, a 501c3, buying a piece of land to develop it. Under that circumstance, my first question really to them was, do you have local representation on your corporation as a 501c3? If you're going to impact a local community, I strongly believe that you should have those that have the potential of being impacted as part of that board so that they have an opportunity to address concerns from that perspective because you're dealing with a corporation. And I think that's important. I think it's important for you to take into consideration your reasoning for rezoning, and it is to allow for a corporation under this new rezoning to further their mission. I think it's a great mission. I think that what they're trying to do has a lot of merit. I think that this is an unreasonable site. I think the expense associated with the benefit they're trying to get is unreasonable. I think it's exorbitant. I grew up in a home of 9. There was 5 brothers, 1 sister, 2 parents. My wife grew up in a family of 10. You know, our homes were small and conservative. They were under 2,500 square feet. We were raised very comfortably, happy. I was very pleased with that. When you're dealing with what I consider sacred funds, donated funds, I think you need to really look at how you're using those funds and where can you get the best benefit of the use of those funds. And buying a home that's 4,500 square feet and building 3,500 square feet homes really doesn't fit that character for me. I think they can accomplish what they're trying to do in a bigger way, using less funds and doing greater good without it being so expensive. As I look at this property, I don't think it's a good fit. The accesses are not good. Once again, you're looking at additional development. They don't have that in place. When I met with them, they didn't even have the guidelines for determining who would be selected as part of the project, let alone have the funds to do what they're saying. So it ultimately starts out as a single resident home. With the hope of continuing to raise funds in order to spend a lot of money with what I consider small benefit, when they could take that and produce a lot more benefit in a better location that's more suited for what they're wanting to accomplish without so much expense on infrastructure and development. So, and I'm happy to talk with them some more. I have a number of other concerns. I think that they're probably more private, and I'd be more than happy to continue to meet with them. I've met with them twice now, and I hope they're successful in finding a reasonable location, one that better suits what they want to accomplish and uses those funds in a more reasonable way. Thank you.
Have we heard from everybody within 1,000 feet? Okay. Then we'll extend it till we hear from everybody within 1,000 feet.
My name is Lori Sines. I live on 266th Street. Visuals help me a lot. So what I did was I took the property, the schematic plan, and I've drawn the 23 acres plus. The density of the development will not remain at approximately 1 home per 2.5 acres. To me, it looks like there's going to be 1 home on 1 acre. That will not conform with the rural residential character of the area. The next page has a picture. If you flip it over, you can see that it's another schematic. Why hasn't the Corporation of Joy Meadows pursued the more feasible and doable open options available elsewhere in Leavenworth and surrounding areas? Please see the Joy Meadows schematic master plan from an original property location. Why did it fall through? Why are you looking at this other place that there's no room for expansion? It's just small. I don't know what else I wanted to say. I'm too nervous. How is providing a public park consisting of a parking area, covered pavilion, playscape, sand volleyball, and picnic table, number 1, going to preserve the character of the neighborhood? Number 2, not detrimentally affect nearby properties? And I'm asking you to please consider this. I am 100% for Joy Meadows. I think what they're doing is wonderful. I just hope they find a better place to do it in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else within 1,000 feet? Okay.
Good morning. My name is William Hamilton. I live on property denoted by the number 15 there.
Okay.
My wife and I moved out to southern Leavenworth County 5 years ago for a very specific set of reasons. all of which you've heard here today from the various folks who have spoken so far. And it is all about the children, right? It is, certainly. God bless you in your ministry. It's a very noble cause, and I think Leavenworth County, Kansas is the perfect location for what the Joy Meadows proposal contains. My wife and I have 9 children, and we moved there for a reason. We love the rural 2.5 acre current zoning. And our request to the commissioners would be, let's keep it that way. There's no reason to change it this quickly. It would be great if Joy Meadows moved onto that location, but I believe they may be limited reasonably to 3 or 4 homes being added to the property under the current zoning. And the community welcomes them with open arms. But we would request sticking to the facts, which you've all heard here today from various people, and sticking to the current zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We've heard from everybody within 1,000 feet. Then we'll close public hearing and go to return to regular session. Anybody have any questions of staff on this?
I think so. Just a second. I did have, is there a valid protest petition?
Yes, Commissioner, there's a valid protest petition.
Okay. Is that in our packet?
The protest petition?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I saw it.
I didn't see it.
I can go grab it. Yes,
That's fine.
It's
Just
valid.
so
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, so there is a valid
Yes.
protest petition on this, everyone within 1,000 feet. Okay.
Did the traffic study and the proposal assume that the construction traffic would utilize 166th or utilize 170th?
The Public Works Department has reviewed it and they approved the traffic study, so there are no concerns.
If you don't know the answer to that, what the assumption was in the traffic study?
I can't answer that. I don't
We'd have
know.
to have Public Works tell us. So I just didn't know if their assumption was that because we heard testimony that the construction traffic had to go down 166th.
I have one question or one concern, well, several, but one that I'd like to bring up is the concept of, and I fully support Joy Meadows and the foster care system. I'm a huge advocate, but one of the things that concerned me was one of the requirements that's in here for the public park and access, and that concerns me as both a commissioner, because if it was public, what is the liability of the county? And then forcing public, would Joy Meadows be required liability-wise to have to maintain what I would consider to be, based on my experience, fairly significant liability insurance for when people come onto the property, so that even as we consider whether or not we want to approve the planned unit development, although it would be admirable for you to invite anybody who, as in any neighborhood that is a subdivision or whatever, there's requirements that say have a park. It doesn't say that it has to be a public park, you need green space. It just really does concern me to say that there would be a public, open to the public park.
Answer that briefly. So while a park isn't pivotal to the mission of what we're trying to do here, we want to develop homes. What we are going to develop was having that play space anyway.
Right.
And so in our site plan, we were planning on doing that down towards 170th, where there's an existing fence between the road. And so we would be more than willing to have that be open, just like any other neighborhood subdivision. So when we say public park, that's why in our revised site plan, since the Planning and Zoning Commission looked at it, we said that would be optional based on what the Board of County Commissioners decided. We want there to be open access for anyone to utilize that. And we're not going to have a gate down there. It's not a gated compound or anything like that. More like a neighborhood that people could come and go. And so we wanted to allow access for that. We have looked at our general liability policy to include having people back and forth on it that aren't necessarily residents.
Okay, that was my
And the
concern,
cost of
was
that,
just,
yeah.
was having it declared to be a public, quote, public park.
I have a concern also if you're using a private road to get to a public park. I don't agree with the public park.
I just think, to take the word public out of the language is just, there would be a park
A park.
and walking
That's why
trails.
in the revised site
Okay.
plan before you all right now, that's what it says. It's,
Okay,
yeah.
I haven't,
We brought that up in our work sessions on PUDs
yeah.
also. That
The correct terminology for it. Yeah, because it's a private road, it's privately maintained road that'll be utilized. It's not closed off.
Are you projecting a water meter per home? Is that the water district's requiring, or are they?
There's a few options that we've looked at. The water line obviously would be needed to extend it from the last fire hydrant down there. We've also spoken with different options for wells out there. So we've spoken with the water district. Should we choose to, it would be a water meter per home if that's the route we go. That would have to be installed.
Are those homes going to be taxed? Or are you trying to get?
Is that a question from one of you guys? Because I can answer that.
Well, that's part of it. You would not be tax exempt.
To talk, because the other wonderful, I apologize for that, but I'm more concerned about the property taxes and stuff. If there's going to be 10 homes, are all 10 homes going to be taxed, or are they all going to be exempt because of charity? You get all these families living there. Our taxes on 170th Street will be generated to go up higher. That's my concern as far as rezoning is concerned. Can you answer that question? Young lady, are they going to be taxed?
Do you want me to answer
Yes,
the
I do.
question? Okay. I would be fine answering that question. We are a 501c3, so under the IRS, do you want me to answer it?
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Under the IRS guidelines, we would be exempt from some property taxes. That's true. So that's the state of Kansas and the IRS guidelines. There would be some additional taxes that we would have to pay, and we're still working that out with our attorneys because, of course, we'd want to be in compliance. But no, property taxes aren't done in the same way. So it would be the loss of one residential home right now that you're getting that tax benefit. But that's set up, that tax structure is set up the state and federal guidelines because of the benefit that a nonprofit brings in other aspects. So.
Can we have Mr. Van Paris address?
Yeah, I'd like to, county councilor, senior county councilor, would you be able to add anything to that?
I'd ask if you posed it to me in the form of a direct question. What is the question?
Will these homes, will we collect property tax?
If Joy Meadows is a valid 501c3 corporation, they would have the ability to apply under Kansas law for a property tax exemption to be granted by the Board of Tax Appeals, not by you. That issue, quite frankly, is out of your jurisdiction. Taxation in Kansas, the rule is everything's taxable unless you can prove it's not or gain an exemption. So it would be incumbent upon Joy Meadows to, whatever their status or whatever activity they take, to apply to the Board of Tax Appeals of the state of Kansas with respect to any property tax exemption.
Would it be a violation of the law for us to take that into account?
I'm not aware of it having been taken into account in other circumstances.
I don't think that it should be taken into account in this, because we have no control over whether or not
I wish
taxes are
we had
collected on
control over
property.
property tax.
Yes.
Any other questions or thoughts or concerns? Like I said,
I just had one in regards to the PUD status. There's been a lot of conversation or concern around meeting certain requirements, given this is a phased project over time. My guess is similar to a special use permit. If conditions weren't met over a period of time, here's the conversation we've had internally on a more traditional development that might happen in a year or two, right? So you're going to put up 10 homes or 12 homes that don't meet existing zoning, but obviously this board has been very pro-development. If that 2-year or 5-year or 7-year period occurs, regardless of where they start with development, if the roads aren't addressed, whether it's the access off of 166th or, the drive, the private drive on 170th, what would be our, position? Because we know once a home's developed, it's not a business, you're not going to pick it up and move it. At the same time, conditions have to be met, otherwise I assume your ability to keep building based on this plan could probably be revoked if you didn't meet those. Is that correct?
This is like the first step. We have several more steps. They have to come in and plat the property.
Sure.
So at that time, we'll look at all the site plan and everything at that time. And then when they come in for a building permit, we also check to make sure all the construction or any improvements needed to be made has to be made at that time. So before we give them the building permit, we
Right.
look at all those things.
Well, I think that's what, there's been a lot of questions and there's a lot of vagueness, and it's because that doesn't happen in the process until the time you're trying to go vertical.
build, yeah.
Right, right, okay.
Well, we would still have to prove a plat,
Yes,
correct?
there'll be a preliminary plat, final plat, and then
Right.
the site plan, staff will be reviewing that. So there's a lot of steps.
And that will address some of the concerns that the folks had today.
Because we've had the conversations, and KDHE has approved, and it is obvious that literally septics can be supported on as little as even an acre tract, which was
Correct. They
some
just
of what
have
was
to have an
presented today.
engineered
So,
system, yes.
An engineered system, yeah.
And the private drive at the time of the platting could be a private road, is that correct?
It'll be a private road,
It'll be a
yes.
private road that could be built to county standards, is that correct?
Again, with the PUD, that's kind of what we just want to leave it to them to.
I don't like that idea.
To maintain it. The site plan will show all those.
But in our work session, that's been discussed quite a bit, whether the private roads need to be built to county standards.
And I think they should be.
And we haven't made any decisions, of course, but we've talked about it quite a bit.
It'll be similar to Bear Lake subdivision.
Let's just hypothetically say the board decided that we weren't going to go with a planned unit development. Then the alternative is that they simply follow the zoning the way it is and plat out a subdivision, correct?
They could do that.
And they have every right to do that, and it would not involve a public hearing?
No, sir.
And it would
Be just a platting.
So that just happens to be the way the zoning is.
And because of the configuration of the ground, right.
Yeah, but the difference would be the frontage, and also you're talking about the green space and the trails and the
Yeah, that's
the
the idea.
amenities.
That's the idea behind the planned unit development. You concentrate the houses in one area and then leave everything open, so that gives a lot of open space to the community.
So today, we'd just be voting on planned unit development. If that gets approved, then they would have to plat it, and it'd have to come back and meet all the county's criteria for that. And that, at the time of platting, the water will be addressed, the septics will be addressed, and actually the public park will be addressed. Am I missing anything?
Well, I think that the road from 166 to 177th, the private road needs to be.
The road off of
At a
170?
Yeah, I mean, at a minimum, I mean, it should either be paved or asphalt, I mean, not gravel. Those are just things that I feel we need to make certain is taken care of, even with approval of this. And then at looking at, although I really appreciate and understand the desire to get as many houses as you can reasonably get on the property based on the acreage, without the planned unit development, by looking at the property, most likely there would be absolutely no way that 10 houses could be constructed on that property. Even if you wanted, no matter how you want to define it and how much is left over, I personally feel that that's probably really pushing the intent of planned unit development versus subdivision. I mean, that's just a personal perspective. I absolutely love the idea. I could not be more supportive of the idea of this community. But I think, so I have worked with and talked to and came up with a few changes to recommend as far as, and to discuss, like potentially phasing, if we approve the plan unit development, what Joy Meadows would do as they have accomplished what they have committed to doing over a period of time, but probably not having a 10-house development when it was complete, but maybe 7 or 8 maximum, because I really honestly think that's as many as could be fit if they platted it as a subdivision. Am I making sense? I just feel that although I love the idea, I love trying to figure out how to maximally do it, I just don't want even future plan unit developments, not Joy Meadows, any future developments, to be able to skirt around significantly what the intent of the 2.5 acre plan is. That's just, for density. So I would ask that we kind of look at that as a potential, as a possibility.
But as Doug had shared, the plats would come before, obviously, the staff and planning and zoning before it ever came to the Board of County Commissioners, so they would have a chance to address any of those concerns based on how it perked, engineered systems, input from whichever water district supports this particular area. All of that would be in consideration.
I believe we're allowed to put additional conditions on the PUD, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have some additional conditions you'd like to put on the PUD?
Well, I do.
Okay.
And this was consulted with the county counselor. He reviewed this as far as making that it's completely legal, this motion. So I move that the PUD proposed in DEV 19-078 be approved subject to conditions 1 through 12 as listed on page 4 of the staff report under staff recommendations modified as follows. Number 1, that the intersection of the private road with 166th Street and 170th Street be constructed to county standards. Number 2, that the private interior road be constructed and maintained as hard surface, asphalt, and chip and seal as per county standards. That number 3, that the county be granted easement sufficient to allow the improvement of the private road to county standards. Number 4, that the park and community center be private and owned and maintained by the homeowners association. Number 5, that the number of dwelling units within the planned unit development be approved as follows. A, as an initial approval of not more than 4 dwelling units to include the existing dwelling unit. B, future approval of not more than 3 additional dwelling units conditioned upon a review after 5 years, a 5-year period of the impact of the planned unit development upon the character of the neighborhood and traffic and safety issues. C, that the dwelling unit within the PUD shall comply with the design and number of residents as detailed in the submitted PUD plan. And that's the motion.
So you're saying 7 houses, including the existing one, total,
right,
in the end?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So, your motion is subject to review 5 years. But any time though, they could also come in for a replat. Is that correct?
Yeah, if they want to change the site plan, they can come in as the PUD revision, so it'll be a revising of their PUD. So if they want to add more houses, they can come back and ask for it.
Okay.
And this is, after discussing with Oberdorfers, this was pretty much in conformity with what they were going to see initially, unless hundreds of thousands of dollars come in, this would be pretty much in accordance with what.
The site is going to, this is a plan. Plans do change. The site is going to allow or disallow based on our processes in place, so putting additional restrictions on them, I wouldn't support. So.
Just curious how you came up with 7 houses instead of like 9, for instance, would put them under the 2.5 acre.
Well, in visiting with staff, we kind of looked at the little section of where the drive is, and that you get it down to about 18 acres, actually, when you get the...
Buildable.
Oh, by the time you get right away,
Right.
additional
Buildable.
right away? Okay, yeah.
You know, what's buildable and what's, and because fortunately, there are going to be facilities on site, like the arena and the covered shelters and those things that are also going to be taking up part of the
And it clarifies it will be private park, so the county will not be responsible. Y'all will be responsible for your park.
You're running some numbers there. Come up with anything?
I agree with everything you propose, except I would say 9 houses instead of 7 and 10.
Can we go
Not
with
10,
8?
not 7. I
What,
would say
8?
9. Because 9
Negotiate.
puts it at 2.55 per house, which is above what the minimum regulation is.
I think we were just visited with staff, and that's the number they came up with.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there.
But again, that could all be addressed during the plating.
Or replatting after you
Right.
start. Okay. Have a
What about a payment in lieu of taxes for services rendered?
We don't decide that. That's BOTA, Board of Tax Appeals. So did I get a second on his motion?
I did.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
I have a question on the voting. Is this
Okay.
going to require, what's the voting requirement going to be since there's a protest petition?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and Mr. Joseph, please step in. It's my understanding from statements of staff that a valid protest petition has been submitted. Under Kansas law, that requires that the approval of this proposal take place with a three-quarter vote. It takes three-quarters of the body, of the members of the body. Since you have 5 doing the math per state law, it would require 4 affirmative votes.
What would be the result, if we vote on this motion and this motion would fail, would that result in a rejection of the?
Until the board concludes the meeting, the board could entertain a subsequent motion.
Okay.
Voting?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Motion carried. All right, you got a executive.
Just to be clear, I was going to vote for conditions as presented, not additional requirements, so very much in favor of the project, so.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, as housekeeping matter, I think you would need to adopt the resolution as amended by discussion of the board.
I'll entertain a motion to consider a rezone from 2.5 to a planned unit development.
As amended?
Yeah, as amended.
Second. Or
I'm-
some of.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay. Do we want to take a recess before we do in our executive session? Let's take a 5-minute recess. We'll return to regular session now. And before we go, camera's on. Before we go into an executive session, does anybody have anything that they needed to bring us up to date on?
Oh, let's see. I challenge all of my fellow commissioners to be here on Friday for the United Way kickoff and tailgate. And I myself have volunteered to be.
Don't say ice bucket.
Part of the Ice Bucket Challenge, yes. And I challenge all of you to consider being part of it. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what will happen to you, but I put my name, I'm on there.
On your head?
Yes, I know, if I get the most votes, and Mr. Lothery has agreed to have his name with a bucket, on a bucket to put
Hey,
tickets
this
in.
could be pretty telling if we put
Absolutely.
all the commissioners and department heads.
And the department heads, we've asked them all to volunteer.
I like it.
And so we'll see how that does as a fundraiser,
Can
so.
we put Joe on there too?
Is Rebecca doing it?
No, she's not a department head, and she's not an elected official, but we've asked for all of the above. The chief's basket that I put together is in there for everybody to look at. That will be part of a drawing, as in, incentive for the staff to make any level, level of contribution to the United Way. I think that they'll get a ticket for every $5 or $10. I can't remember now. Do you remember what we said? But they will get a ticket for each increment of money that they donate to go into or to use for any purpose they want on any of the drawings.
Okay.
Or into a particular commissioner's ice bucket.
Or a particular county administrator's ice bucket. Oh, it could be other elected officials or
Yes, you
department
vote
heads
with your dollars.
participate. I'm just saying, I stepped up, I did it. I said I'd do it.
I like it, well done.
So I think it's going to be fun. We're going to have hamburgers and hot dogs. I want to assure the general public, no public funds have been spent on any of the activities for the county's United Way.
Will there be a period of time for the airing of grievances?
No.
We don't allow that.
I would assume that the airing of grievances would be to the person who had the most tickets in their bucket. But I just think it's going to be fun, and I hope that everybody will come and enjoy the time together.
Kick off at 11 o'clock?
Kick off at 11 o'clock, and we'll run the tailgate through till 1.
Okay.
And the, let's see, planning and zoning and the county administrator will be grilling hot dogs and hamburgers, and we'll have chips and cookies. And for those who can't make it, if they let us know they can't make it, we will wrap up their food and deliver to them, employees, if they want a hot dog or a hamburger.
Okay.
Most amazing tailgate ever.
Mr. Colson, you have anything?
Oh, meeting-wise, it's been kind of quiet. Easton's wasn't this Monday because of the first. Leavenworth's canceled theirs last night, so we didn't have a meeting at Leavenworth City. But just mostly been working with taxpayers on issues like tubes and roads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we also have a meeting of the Task Force for Mental Health tomorrow.
Okay.
At 11.
All right. Let's see, last Wednesday I had Baser City Council meeting. And before that, Commissioner KAAZ and myself attended the CASA dinner, but we did not get dinner because we both had to be at other places. But we did go and shake a few hands at first, and then we had to leave. And I went to Thursday night, I went to Fairmount Township Fire Department meeting, and I guess I probably should have brought that up in administrative business. They're wanting to know if we would come up with a contract, which would be Mr. Van Perry's, for the space that we use at the fire department to start paying rent for our ambulance starting January 1. So.
Commissioner, on that topic, I'm not certain if it was you or someone else that broached that issue. It's unfortunate that that topic was not brought forward prior to
our
the
budget.
conclusion of your budget hearing. The idea of paying rent, that's a policy discussion to take place between this board and their board, but please be reminded that it was not included in the budget, so that's a complicating factor.
So we're going to need to figure out where the funds are going to come from.
It would have been I would say, much more desirable had that request been made during your budget process.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'm not certain if they have budgeted in their budget.
Okay. So are we going to need to have a work session on this to figure this out?
I think we can draft an agreement.
Okay.
And bring it to the board, and you can at least consider the agreement.
Okay. All right. And then Saturday was the Small Town Saturday in Baser. The morning was fine. The afternoon was not so fine.
That was a small town shower in Baser.
Small town shower, Baser. I don't know what time Mr. Matthews bailed on the tent. Did you stay till?
Oh, sometime after 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Brave man.
It was pouring.
Yeah.
I came back about 3 or 4, and it didn't look worth walking down to get to. But they had good breakfast, and they had a good turnout, I thought, in the morning. But it's unfortunate that the evening things got rained out. So maybe the heat's better instead of the cool weather, I guess.
Right.
And October is Breast Cancer Month, so we'll have a proclamation to read next week. And that's about all I have, I think.
I had two more things. Yes, why I said pink tie, love it. I had
Why
two
don't
more
you pull that
things just that are coming up. What is it, tomorrow night at Leavenworth High School, the Harlem Wizards will be playing some of the teachers, and it's very entertaining. So if anyone is interested in attending that in advance, and tickets in advance like today are $10 for students, $12 for adults, and then at the gate, I can't remember exactly, but the price goes up just incrementally a couple of dollars. $15 at the gate, at the door. I would encourage people to attend because I've seen the teams playing. They're going to be playing teachers. Jermaine Wilson, the mayor for Leavenworth, will be one of the referees,
Oh, yeah?
which in and of itself should be quite entertaining. So I think that people should come. And then on Saturday night, this past Saturday night was postponed, the Operation Awareness Concert for Suicide Prevention. It's been rescheduled for this Saturday night at Haymarket Square, beginning at 4 p.m. So there's got a lot of good bands coming to play, and I think it would be a good time to go out with, and it's family friendly, so bring the family, and if you have time, Saturday evening at 4 and probably till 9. Listen to some music, bring your lawn chairs.
Where's that at?
At Haymarket Square in Leavenworth. This way,
Well, I won't
if
be
it
able to-
rains, they're
Tomorrow-
covered.
Tomorrow night I have a water board meeting, so I won't be able to attend that.
Okay, that was just a couple things that are for fundraisers for worthy causes that I thought we would.
This comprehensive plan, there's a deal tonight.
Tonight.
At 5 o'clock. And then tomorrow there's something too, correct?
And
What
it's
time
at
is that?
4?
2.
5? Well,
It's 5.
Well, they're all day activities, but on our agenda, it's 5 to 7.
5 to 7.
It's different. There's a different schedule for tomorrow. There's different things going on.
Schedule
think
seems to change.
I think they have a shred going on.
well, there was something that started from 4 to 5 that was in the email, wasn't it, that Crystal sent?
So the agenda you can find on the website. My bigger concern was, Crystal had sent a communication to us, I think just even yesterday, updating us on where we should be and when, which I had largely missed until yesterday. And I was more concerned that it was Crystal getting us up to speed, and it was really the day of, and I'm like, we paid a firm a half a fortune, and I feel like, how hard is it to send an email? And beyond that, in getting a list of all of the stakeholders, several of the stakeholders I've talked to maintained as though they've gotten no communications pre, during, or even specific to this week. So I don't know where that disconnect is, but in the year 2019, it should be just about impossible. If you're not going to something, it's because you're actively choosing not to.
I agree.
Not because you don't know what's going on.
Commissioner Schimke, I would simply urge you to check the definition of the word charrette.
Is that a challenge?
Well, it came
I'm
up
pretty
with
sure
mine.
that Right.
Okay.
Touche.
And are you going?
So that was the other thing I had was, which does allow me to participate more in the charrette, knowing now that it is this week and it is the hours that it's been posted, even though I know we talked about October 2nd, I don't know how many months ago, that I had a conflict come up that won't allow me to be in Wichita tomorrow morning. I'm assuming that no one else will be in Wichita tomorrow morning or would want to do that. I was actually looking forward to it, but it does allow me to now be
Cool.
a bigger part of the charrette. So.
Glad. Good to know.
Good to know.
That may or may not be an actual word in the English
I
dictionary.
went to the
So-
technical committee meeting yesterday afternoon, and it was pretty insightful. Dan Lynch was there, and some of the developers, and they had a lot of input from engineers, and it was a pretty interesting meeting.
Good.
So I was actually going to ask Jeff earlier, like just not having him more on the forefront of it or holding Olson accountable for communicating with us. I'm like, I don't know where that is falling down, but let's get it fixed. We're obviously not done, even though this is a big week, so.
Okay. Okay, then I guess we'll go to our...
I move that the board recess for a closed executive meeting for the discussion of a matter involving, is this the one? Which one? I may have the
The
wrong one.
legal interest of the county.
Okay, is that the legal interest of the county as justified by KSA 75-4319B 2 for consultation with legal counselor for the board, which would be deemed privilege in the attorney-client relationship, and that the board resume open meeting at
10 minutes, Commissioner.
10:30 a.m.
11. Let's go with
Oh,
11.
sorry, 11:30 a.m. in the meeting room of the board. Present in the executive meeting will be Commissioners Culbertson, KAAZ, SCHIMKE, Smith, and STIEBEN, Senior County Counselor David Van Paris, and County Administrator Mark Lothry.
Second. Have a motion and second. Any further discussion on the executive session? Seeing none. Voting?
Aye.
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 Let the record show we returned to regular session at 11:30. No decisions were made, no action was taken. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn until
1 o'clock.
p.m.
But I need to, we've got an official motion to make for 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah, we'll make that.
We'll make it at 1 o'clock, okay.
Second.
We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock.
Have a
Reconvene
motion
at
and a
1.
second to
Go eat.
to adjourn and reconvene at 1 o'clock. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Aye.